The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news at this time comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. I am Deanna Jordan. A very good morning to you. First, the lead stories. Schools are to be reopened fully after the Easter holiday. An official of the Ministry of Health is in custody for alleged possession of arms and ammunition and attempting to bribe the police. In regional news, Jamaica's opposition will tell members of the British royal family that it is time for compensation for slavery and making that Caribbean island a republic. For the international news, we'll bring to you the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service. The details of these and other stories will be coming up in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return to work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, which results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. Education Minister Priya Manik-Chand says all schools across Guyana will be reopened fully from April 25th. She also says that each child's performance will be assessed to ascertain learning loss. The minister says some skills that were acquired will be lost, and a large number of students may have also decided not to return to school. To ensure teachers and students are prepared for the new term, she says the Ministry of Education has implemented a staggered system to allow students to revisit studies from their previous grade within a 20-week period before moving on to the new term's curriculum. Additionally, the Education Ministry is working to ensure that every school is equipped with the necessary tools and equipment to be fully functional before the new term commences. The minister also announced a new program that will be rolled out nationally to target learning loss in the 4 core subjects. Ms. Manik-Chand says there will be an assault on literacy and focus will be on 4 key subjects: English language, mathematics, science, and social studies. The Education Ministry had announced the closure of schools back in March 2020 following the onset of the deadly coronavirus. Guyana has recorded only 1 new COVID case within the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry also says that of the 12 hospitalized persons, 4 are very sick and are receiving intensive care. Official figures also show that 128 persons have been instructed to isolate themselves at home. 8 others have been quarantined to see if they will develop symptoms of the disease. Guyana's death toll dating back to March 2020 is 1,226. Digicel Guyana says 38% of more than 100 businesses in the country say they will need a technology partner to manage their information communications technology, ICT. The telecoms provider says its business arm also found that 13% of the 117 business polled say they are struggling. Commenting on the research, Nalini Vieira, Digicel's head of business-to-business ICT sales, says her company is bringing the technology human capital so that their business customers do not need to. She says there's a high awareness among Guyanese businesses of the fundamental need to embrace cloud solutions cybersecurity, and smart solutions in order to stay connected, competitive, and customer-centric. Conducted with the top decision makers in 117 businesses in Guyana, 53% of the businesses interviewed had annual turnover in excess of $1 million, with 32% recording over $6 million in annual turnover, and 33% of the companies were multinationals. Digicel says 64% of respondents manage and maintain their technology platforms themselves in-house. However, the company says only 42% of businesses declared themselves confident that they could secure the technology human capital required to continue to manage their ICT platforms themselves and keep up with the rapid pace of technology advancement and change. A man has been arrested for allegedly stabbing his wife with a kitchen knife in his car in Linden. Police say the 44-year-old man was arrested after the injured woman called relatives for help. The 42-year-old woman was rushed to a nearby hospital where she is in serious but stable condition. The incident occurred last Friday afternoon at Bucktongue, Wisma, Linden. Investigators were informed that the husband and wife were in a car driven by him when an argument ensued. The woman alleges that her husband drove the car to Bucktongue. As they both exited, police say the man went into the car trunk, took out a kitchen knife, and ordered the victim back into the car where the argument continued. During the argument, police said the suspect allegedly inflicted a wound to his wife's chest, one to her lower right foot, and to her fingers before escaping. The woman made contact with relatives who went to the area and rescued her. The man was subsequently arrested. An employee of the Ministry of Health's drug bond at Diamond East Bank, Demerara, was Monday arrested after police said they found a number of guns, ammunition, and cash in his car. He has also been accused of corrupt transaction with agent because he allegedly offered investigators $1.7 million Guyana dollars to drop the charges, police said on Monday. Police say the car owner requested his bag and he withdrew and offered police more than $1.7 million Guyana dollars cash to forego the investigations. Investigators had gone to the Diamond Drug Bond to investigate a report of larceny from that government facility. However, a search of the car bearing license number PAB 3032 unearthed 2 pistols and 27 rounds of ammunition. More than $4.5 million cash, including $5,760 was allegedly found in his possession. Police have questioned and detained several employees who were fingered in the alleged crime. And now in regional news, Jamaica's opposition says it will participate in the activities of the royal visit this week to make known to the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall its views on fundamental issues of reparation and making Jamaica a republic. The Duke and Duchess will arrive on Tuesday for a 3-day visit. Protests have been planned as groups of Jamaicans press for reparation. According to opposition leader Mark Golding, constructive dialogue is the best way to move this process forward. The opposition says it is also aware of planned protests during the visit and of calls for the British monarch to make an authentic and profound apology for the role played by their family in the slave trade, chattel slavery, and the plantation system, and also for public acknowledgement that they benefited from it. The opposition says it agrees that such an apology and acknowledgement would be an appropriate way for the British monarchy to start the process of atonement for their role in this aspect of history. An investigation as well as a review of current security measures in Trinidad and Tobago's prison system has been ordered. Trinidad Newsday reports that Prisons Commissioner Deoprasad Ramatar took action in the wake of the escape of 5 inmates on Sunday night from the Golden Grove prison in Aruca. One of the escapees, Kevin Jagdio, was arrested shortly after the jailbreak, but up to press time, the other 4 remained at large. The inmates got out of their dormitories at around 10:30 p.m. and escaped from the facility. Contacted for comment on Monday, Ramatar said initial investigations showed the men broke through the roof of the dormitories. He said a review of current security arrangements will be done in order to prevent another jailbreak. Contacted for comment, President of the Prison Officers Association, Ciron Richards, told the Trinidad Newsday that while the situation was unfortunate, it could have been avoided. He described the prison dormitories as derelict. He said, despite repeated calls from the association to have these dormitories refurbished, no remedial work was done. Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett on Friday said Dominica has not established diplomatic relations with Syria. At the same time, he acknowledged that earlier in the week he had been informed of that situation by Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Kenneth Daru. The political situation has also led to the resignation of the ambassador, Lorraine Barney Roberts, who signed the agreement with Damascus. In a radio and a television broadcast, Scarrett said he had been informed by Daru that a signing ceremony had taken place, effectively establishing diplomatic relations between the two countries. Scarrett said that in his response to the minister on Monday that he was bewildered. He said the management of sensitive matters requires due process. He said when this situation was brought to his attention, he immediately gave instructions for Barnes Roberts, the island's ambassador to the United Nations, to be summoned to an urgent in-person meeting in his office on Thursday last. He said the meeting lasted 2 hours and examined the circumstances that would have led to the signing of the diplomatic agreement. He said, regarding the diplomatic relations with Syria, the foreign minister had reported that in March 2021, Syria, through its embassy in Cuba, wrote the Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressing interest in establishing diplomatic relations with Dominica. He said the diplomat was permitted to explain her reasoning for signing the agreement at the meeting, and at the end of the session, it was apparent and indeed evident that there was a clear lapse of judgment on the part of the ambassador to have proceeded with signing of such documents without consultations with the minister and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And now for the international news, here's the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. Ukraine's military has warned that Russia will continue to indiscriminately shell cities and infrastructure across the country. Intense fighting is now centred around the southern port city of Mariupol and the country's second city, Kharkiv, in the east. James Reynolds reports.
The authorities here in Ukraine say that they are focusing on trying to negotiate the evacuation of civilians from the besieged southeastern city of Mariupol. They're also trying to get supplies into the city, which has no running water or electricity or gas. But so far, no agreement has been reached. In recent days, sporadic convoys of civilians from Mariupol have managed to leave in cars or buses, often under gunfire. And here in Lviv, in the west of Ukraine, away from the front lines, air raid sirens have sounded several times over the past 24 hours. These latest warnings haven't been followed by actual strikes, so many people here simply go about their lives.
The Ukrainian military say they've recaptured the town of Makariv west of Kiev after counter-attacking Russian forces. In another city near the capital of Borispil, just to the southeast, the mayor has urged those who can to leave to help the work of Ukrainian troops with fighting going on around the city. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has again called for direct talks with Vladimir Putin. Mr. Zelensky said he was ready to discuss all issues, including the status of Russian-occupied Crimea and the Donbass. But he said final decisions in these areas would have to be put to the Ukrainian people in a referendum. At least 200 Belarusian dissidents are believed to have gone to Ukraine to support its fight against Russian troops. One told the BBC they were fighting against what he called our old enemy, Moscow, because, as he put it, without a free and independent Ukraine, there could be no free and independent Belarus. A draft statement being prepared for a summit of European Union leaders at the end of the week indicates that they're planning joint purchases of energy products to reduce dependence on Russian energy imports. Here's Theo Leggett.
Wholesale gas prices in Europe are currently more than 5 times the level they were at a year ago. The market has been highly volatile, largely due to fears the conflict in Ukraine could disrupt supplies. European governments believe that by working together to buy and store supplies of gas, liquid natural gas and hydrogen, they'll be able to reduce the risk of shortages, as well as mitigating and smoothing out future price rises. The European Commission published proposals to create such a system last year. A statement from this week's summit would provide much-needed political momentum to drive that process forward.
World News from the BBC. The jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been found guilty on new embezzlement charges in a trial held in the penal colony where he's already imprisoned. He's currently serving a 2.5-year sentence, but prosecutors are seeking a further 13 years to be served in a remote maximum security prison. Caroline Davis reports from Moscow.
Alexei Navalny is already behind bars. The Kremlin critic is currently serving a 3.5-year sentence for breaching probation. Now it's likely he'll face more years in prison. Appearing in a black prison uniform in a prison camp east of Moscow, Navalny was told by the judge that he'd been found guilty of illegally obtaining billions of dollars in assets from donations to his anti-corruption foundation and of contempt of court. He's always maintained that the charges against him are politically motivated, as have others around the world. Alexei Navalny was arrested in January last year on his return from Germany, where he'd been receiving treatment after he was poisoned by Novichok.
Rescuers in China are continuing to search for survivors of a passenger jet that crashed on Monday, with hopes fading of anyone being found alive. 132 people were on board. The French government has called for calm following the death on Monday of the jailed Corsican nationalist Yvan Colonna. Hugh Schofield is in Paris.
Yvan Colonna had been in a coma for the last 3 weeks following the assault in the gymnasium in the prison in Arles. During this time, there have been repeated outbreaks of rioting by nationalists on the island of Corsica. They're angry that the French justice system failed in its duty to protect Colonna. His killer is a convicted jihadist, and the murder by suffocation reportedly followed insulting remarks made by Colonna about Islam. Yvan Colonna was sentenced to life in prison for shooting the French prefect or government commissioner on Corsica, Claude Erignac, outside a theatre in the capital Ajaccio in February 1998.
And that's the BBC News.
The news was brought to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now here's a look at the lead stories once again. Schools are to be reopened fully after the Easter holiday. An official of the Ministry of Health is in custody for alleged possession of arms and ammunition and attempting to bribe the police. Regionally, Jamaica's opposition will tell members of the British royal family that it is time for compensation for slavery and making that Caribbean island a republic. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.